Hey, Hockey World. How you doing? Lots happening. Lots going on. Texas coming in. Things flying around. Players getting moved from here to there. Cats and dogs living together. We'll get to all that right now.
Mass hysteria.
Mass hysteria is two minor trades. Send sort of a bit of a reverberation.
One minor trade, one middle of the road trade.
Both interesting on lots of levels. We'll get to that right now on the HockeyBuzzcast. That's what you're watching on HockeyBuzz.com. Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, February 6th, 2019.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology. It's sunny and 50 degrees here. Like, nobody hate me, but that's just what it is.
Oh, yes, and I am Eklund, and you're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com, and no one would hate Russ for any reason whatsoever.
Well, wait a second.
Yeah.
He is a Mets fan.
Yeah, hold on. Another possibility. So
I didn't have the hat on.
I got lots of texts coming in today. So
while you're looking at the text,
what's happened.
Yeah, I'll cover the two deals that were made. One, I think, of a significant variety. The other one is, I think, meaningless, but whatever. David Poyle traded with two New York area teams or Metro Division teams, trading a second-round pick to the New Jersey Devils. And it must be something about Brian Boyle. He just attracts second-round picks. But Brian Boyle was traded to Nashville for a second-round pick. He's a pending UFA, so a rental, making a little over $2 million. A lot of playoff experience, big body. And the other deal was a seventh-round pick to the New York Rangers for Russ's favorite, Cody McLeod.
So McLeod, let's talk about McLeod for a minute.
Yeah.
The positive of the McLeod trade is it just gives a young guy a roster spot, which is all I've been saying all year. Why did they have Cody McLeod for a seventh? Now, the argument is because he showed some of the young guys how to be a hockey player. Okay, but I felt like there were other guys that could do that already. Couldn't Matt Zuccarello do that? Couldn't Henrik Lundqvist do that?
Told you.
No, Mike, that argument is old.
We'll get to Matt Zuccarello in a second because I have an interesting rumor flying around. I just got a text about Matt Zuccarello on. Yeah, I think he could do that. But here's the thing about McLeod that you have to remember. First of all, he was a Predator, right? And he was part of that really long run that the Predators had in the playoffs.
Are you serious? Really, that mattered? How many games did he play?
He played a lot. No, you
didn't play a lot.
Yes, he did. He actually scored some goals too. He
did have some goals. I know he did.
Cody McLeod is a Laviolette guy. Okay, flat out. He is. There's no Laviolette hated when they lost him. They wanted to get him back in a big way, and this is what they did.
I said that they got him back because they couldn't get Harry Zolnarchuk or Daniel Carcillo or Jordan Tutu. They weren't available, so they got McLeod. I mean, honestly, he was on the Rangers, and I've said this from the very beginning, and Russ may agree or disagree with it, but he was on the Rangers to protect the younger players. He was there.
Yeah. I would 100% disagree. It did nothing for him.
I know, but that's what he was there for. And now what he is there for in terms of the Predators is to be a fourth liner in the playoffs if they want him as an option for a fourth line. If they come up against a physical team like they will against a team like Winnipeg, and he is that sort of that nuclear missile in your back pocket that you can throw out there and stir the pot and create some energy if you absolutely need to. And I think, maybe they'll avail themselves of that. Maybe they won't, but here's
Cody McLeod's playoff numbers. In 38 games, he has 3 goals. He has 4 points, and he's got 80 PIMs. He did play 15 games in 16-17, and that's the most he's ever played in the playoffs. Like, you're not getting him for the playoffs. If you put him in a couple games, sure.
No, I'm going to disagree with you here. That's just, listen, I'm not saying he did anything in New York because he didn't. Okay, but at the same time, I am saying that as a Predators, as a guy like
1 goal in 15 games for the Predators with 27 PIMs. Sure, he added toughness. Okay.
If I recall right, it was like a game-winning goal, though. It was. I mean, it was.
Well, you got to make a lot out of that 1 goal.
No, but it's more than toughness. Here's the thing. Here's what I'm hearing. Okay, it's interesting that they went and they got 2 tough players, right? The Predators went out and got 2 tough guys, pretty much at the same time. Like Boyle is a tough guy as well.
Boyle's big. He's not tough.
He's big, but he brings a lot of character.
Yes. No
to
doubt.
the table. Obviously, you know, I think everyone's happy for him for this trade. I mean, this is like a really good chance for Boyle to maybe go and win it. You know, it's and everybody wants to see good things for him. No one dislikes Brian Boyle. Okay, so
he's a good guy, and when he came to Toronto, you know, they loved the experience that he brought, and he immediately made their fourth line better. And I think in this instance, and Russ pointed out before we started recording, that with Austin Watson in an uncertain situation there, that, you know, getting him makes sense. Now, I don't know, nobody knows if Austin Watson is going to be back for the rest of this year with what he's going through right now. So I think it's insurance, but I don't think Nashville's done. I think they still need scoring.
But here's the thing about Brian Boyle, too. Brian Boyle hasn't scored a playoff goal in 3 years. Well, Brian Boyle's got 28 points in 111 playoff games. So he is a very slight replacement to Austin Watson, because Watson actually scores a lot more than Brian Boyle in the playoffs. That's the reality.
But Boyle had 13 goals, I think 45 games. So that's, you know, he's having a decent offensive year.
No,
I think it's
a regular season, Mike.
I know.
He's never been a great postseason performer.
I know. But I'm just saying, you know,
right.
You know, I know that he set up an overtime winner with the Leafs against Washington a couple years ago.
That was one of his 2 points.
Okay.
But it was an important. It was an important one. I mean,
it was a game winning. Everything's important in the playoffs.
Everything. There are levels of importance. Okay, like, you know, like if you got a big goal, people remember. Like we all remember that Boyle goal. I mean, but Boyle point, you know, whatever it was. I don't know, whatever.
Mike remembers it. The regular average human doesn't remember it.
I remember Cody McLeod.
I'm sure Kasperi Kapanen remembered it, because Kasperi Kapanen scored the overtime goal. But anyway. So.
But I remember. I remember McLeod. I actually think Predators fans love this trade. You know, I talked to them, and McLeod was definitely a fan guy down there too. And he's part of that. He's part of the history. There was something else involving with him. I forget what it was, but
if you seriously, I'm going to tell you this right now. If Peter Laviolette is seriously going to put him in every game, which I don't believe he will for the playoffs, this does not make the Nashville Predators better. If he puts him in because, hey, he feels like they're lacking some toughness in this game, or he wants a matchup in that game, I get it. But if you're playing him for every game, no way.
It's a change of pace. I mean, like I mentioned Harry Zolnarchuk when he was with
another Laviolette guy.
Right, and I'm not sure if he was with the Predators in that run as well, but I remember. No. Okay, but you know, in the past, that was the role. He was the guy on the fourth line wing that you could put in a game where you knew that was going to get a little rough and tumble, and he would throw his weight around, and he probably that's about all he would do in 6 or 7 minutes of ice time. But sometimes
Harry Zolnarchuk is 10 times the scorer that Cody McLeod is in the playoffs, because he has 3 points in 11 games, and that percentage is a lot better than Cody McLeod's percentage.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
It's just the reality. That's a reality.
All right, but here's what's happening. Let's zoom out for a second, okay? Here's what's happening on a bigger scale, because these are part of the way Poyle has done things historically, which is great about him. Is this? He does have multi-tiered plans that he likes to pull off before the deadline, and this is, to me, these 2 picks do something else for him. These 2 pickups do something else for him. I don't know what that is. I don't. And this is, but Poyle, you know, has become very predictable in this part of things, that he will say, okay, we'll do this, this, and this, and he likes to do it about a week. You know, this is earlier than usual for him.
Yeah,
this is earlier than usual. It is.
I mean, look at the Predators. Maybe it allows them to trade a Kyle Turris. You know, maybe it allows them to trade a center an already existing center, if they think Boyle. And I think Boyle's a fourth line guy. I think that's his role.
Fourth line guy.
Yeah,
that's a reality.
He's a third line guy on a bad team, like he was on New Jersey. He's a fourth line guy on a good team.
But he knows how to play the fourth line. He does.
Right, and he's good on faceoffs, and he can. He's
good on faceoffs.
He may be too slow to penalty kill now, but I know he's done it in the past.
I think he's too slow. They have better penalty killers on that team.
Yeah, they do. They have, but okay. So big picture. Let's go out big picture again.
Are they calling Vern Fiddler? The chat room wants to know.
I know Vern Fiddler. I sat next to Vern Fiddler for about 3 hours during a season ticket fund drive one time.
Was he on a roof?
He was a great guy. Such a great guy.
Fiddler on a roof.
We're not doubting that he's not a great guy. We're not.
No, Fiddler brought, these are, they're typical Predators type players. Things. It's funny, like and typical Barry Trotz players, because we're seeing Brian Trotz is long gone. Barry Trotz is typical thing. So anyway,
I will say this.
All right, I keep trying to zoom out. Zoom out.
Zoom out.
One last zoom. Simmonds is not going to Nashville.
Behind this. Okay.
Simmonds is not going to Nashville. I will tell you that because these trades preclude that from happening. Now you can go.
Thank you. The Western Conference. Okay. Last year, what did we see in this? What did we see? We saw Vegas go through, and not easily, but easier than they should have probably. And then we saw Vegas run into what against the Capitals? They ran into a wall physically against the Capitals that they couldn't handle. They couldn't handle it. It wasn't just Wilson. It was the Caps in general. The Caps were way more physical than them. And what I think this is the Predators looking at the Western Conference and saying, the Western Conference is soft. And when we're going through the playoffs here, I want to have a physical team that can put up against them, that can take out Vegas if we run up against Vegas, that can give, the Jets a run for it, and can, if we get to the finals, against whoever it is in the Eastern Conference, if it's the Caps again, I mean, there's very different kinds of teams in the Eastern Conference. You have them against Tampa, it's not going to be.
I think Poile here is preparing for one eventuality, which is Winnipeg.
Right.
And remember, one of the reasons Vegas got to the Cup final last year is because Winnipeg and Nashville kicked the crap out of each other, and it was a little bit easier for Vegas to beat Winnipeg once they got through Nashville, and that was a hard fought series. And then I think Vegas had a little bit of an advantage there. Now they're gonna Winnipeg and Nashville are probably gonna face each other in the second round again this year, and they, Poile made the preemptive move. He got himself a big center, a depth center for a draft pick. He added a little muscle. I don't think they're done. Now we're going to see if Cheveldayoff does. We talked with Peter about that yesterday about, what they're possibly going to do. There's been talk about Derek Brassard. There's been talk about a few other names. I mean, it's going to be sort of tit for tat. And
you know what the reality is? Like I was saying before, Boyle replaces Watson, right? So with these two moves, they're barely ahead of where they were before Watson left the team. I don't think this makes Cheveldayoff do anything. Not yet. I think he won't do anything until the
this really is. I don't know that it's all about Winnipeg. I mean, I think that Winnipeg is obviously the team that whenever a team knocks you out, that's a team that you focus on for sure. And they are the best team. And the Jets. The thing about the Jets is they have such a good record right now, and a lot of people don't believe they're playing their best hockey yet. Honestly, they feel like
I agree with that. Actually,
there's more to the Jets, and they're winning. That they're outpacing other teams. And so the Jet, I mean, look at what they're getting out of Patrick Laine. It's just like ridiculous, right? So, I mean, they're that's their superstar, right? Quote unquote. I mean, he obviously is. Scheifele is their superstar, but Laine is the guy that's supposed to be doing much more than he's doing. He's turning into potential for disaster, actually. So that's another story for another day. But yeah, the feeling here, I think, is that the Western Conference. You remember, Poile has always put physical teams in Nashville. That's something he's always been about. Not to say, his dad Bud Poile was the general manager of the Philadelphia Flyers. He's like, there's a lot of like he grew up. You talk to David Poile, he grew up around the spectrum. He grew up around like physical teams at physical times. He believes in physicality. The U.S. teams that Poile has put together in the Olympics have been physical. That's what he likes to do. He will highlight a physical player over a non-physical player almost all the time. Laviolette's a speed guy. It's a good combination that they have going there between, Laviolette would just put skilled players on the ice sometimes, but Laviolette also is a New England kid who likes physical teams too. Or like a Long Island guy, right? He's from Long Island, right? Laviolette. Long Island, yeah. Right. So again, the Islanders were a very physical team. They grew up with physical Eastern Conference hockey, and a lot of the Western Conference recently has.
Wait, who are we talking about? Laviolette?
Yeah.
No, he's not Long Island. I think he's Massachusetts. Sorry,
I'm thinking New England. Yeah, but I guess I'm thinking he started as a coach on the island, right? Yeah, but he
started as a coach on the island. That's where I got crossed up. But he's from Massachusetts, I believe.
So you're looking at Big Dad Bruins. You're looking at two Eastern, and the Predators have always had like an Eastern Conference feel to them since they came in the league. They really have not had, and the conferences have switched feels at times, but right now it does feel this year and even last year it feels as if it's getting back to this skilled, high-flying Western Conference and the more tougher Eastern Conference, with the exception of a few teams, of course, who are like who transcend that. Like Tampa is just all around crazy skilled. But the Western Conference, I think if you put physical in the playoffs, there's such a physical demand to go through. You need to have these kind of guys. This is like a sixth game of the conference semifinals type of player that you need when things are getting hard and things are getting tough and you're trying to beat up on Vegas, in my opinion, or somebody like that.
Yeah, but I still think that, and I just looked it up. Nashville's 10th in the NHL in goals with 171, but I still think that they need that one scoring forward, and it may not be a Simmonds. Maybe they've taken care of the muscle and the size aspect with these deals.
Yeah, I think they have, and that's another part of this big picture here, Mike, because.
But I think they still need skill. They still need one more top 9 forward who can kick in a goal when they need it.
They were definitely in on Wayne Simmonds. So for what it's worth, like you said, Russ, this means they're not going to get Wayne Simmonds now.
Yeah, that's what I think.
And what does that tell you? You know how close the Flyers, Holmgren, Poyle, they are really tight. So this tells me that either Poyle knows that Simmonds is re-signing in Philly, or he knows that Simmonds is going someplace else. Like this,
or he knows, or he knows that the price that Philadelphia is asking for him is too rich, and he went for a cheaper option.
That could be. It could be, but
I mean, this is. I mean, the conventional wisdom right now, and I know it was talked about on Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday with Elliot Friedman and Chris Johnson and those guys, where the first round picks, teams shipping out first round picks, is what teams like Philadelphia are looking for Simmonds. Teams like the Ottawa is looking for either Stone or Duchesne if they trade them. What Carolina is looking for Michael Furland, and apparently there's not a lot of buyers for a first round pick for Furland because it's a little bit too rich of a price. But that probably is what Chuck Fletcher is looking for in a package for Simmonds, and obviously Nashville thinks that that's too rich, and he's probably would have been purely a rental for Nashville. It wouldn't have been somebody they would have signed.
I do have breaking news.
Go ahead.
I'm not thrilled about it, but I'm going to say it. Keith Urban is headlining the Stadium Series game in Philly. I don't understand. What is the Philly connection with Keith Urban?
I don't know, but if Nicole...
There is none. That's the answer. There is none.
I don't know, but if Nicole Kidman's there, I don't care if there's a connection.
Yeah, I got to eat with him at the in Nashville during the Stanley Cup Final.
Okay. Is he a big Flyers fan? No. Is he from
No.
Philly? No.
I don't think so. No. I did not know who he was, to be honest. This was embarrassing, completely embarrassing, because my niece is like the hugest Keith Urban fan in the world. I ate with him, and then he did a press conference, and it was like I thought he was like a blogger from like, I don't know, Chattanooga or something like that. I'm just sitting there talking to him, and we got that press conference now. Yeah, he's like, yeah, I got the press conference now. So he gets up there, and I'm
Australia. That's where.
Maybe.
I know, but so I walk around. And I sit in the seat, and then he just goes behind the press. It was hilarious. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like the guy I was talking to. I thought he was going to the press conference to like sit with me to interview people.
Maybe he's the only artist who would allow Gritty to be the opening act.
No, I mean, look, I'm not a fan of Mumford & Sons, but they're at least from the area. Like, I always think you should get somebody from the area.
Yeah.
Hall & Oates.
You know what? I would
Boys to Men. That's another.
Hold on. Well, Boys to Men.
Let's get it. There's
but Boys to Men would be fine. Mike, as a complete shocker, I would accept Hall & Oates over Keith Urban. No offense to Keith.
Well, my band turned it down for what it's worth. So we said not. We don't leave the house for less than $25,000. So that's the idea. So the Hooters I recently saw. Yeah.
Here's a few Keith Urban songs, just in case you don't know.
No. Let's.
The Fighter, Blue Ain't Your Color. Blue
Keith Urban is huge. Let's not like.
Come on, please.
I mean, throughout Canada, people are gonna. I mean, he's not a northeastern guy, but throughout Canada and the South and much of this country.
Well, maybe he should play Blue Ain't Your Color because the color of the team is orange. Maybe.
Yeah, and then yeah. All right. So
move on.
What we might be seeing here today are. I'll try to bring this back on the rails. We might be seeing that Wayne Simmonds.
Todd Rundgren, that would be a great choice. Thank you.
Well, what I think this represents, Zach, and you can extrapolate from this is the start of the sort of the secondary market here.
Yes.
I mean, I know that it's been mentioned that right now the trade avenues have been clogged because nobody knows what's going on in Ottawa with Stone and Duchesne. Panarin is still, I mean, are they going to keep him? Are they going to trade him? But teams can get a jump start on those role players that they need. And Boyle, I mean, we heard a couple weeks ago that Boyle was going to be was on the market. We heard last week that I think Arthur Staple from The Athletic had said that, Lamoriello was looking at him with the Islanders because he had acquired him in Toronto and they could use some playoff experience on that team. So, there are going to be other guys like Patrick Maroon or on defense, guys like Kronwall and Jay Bouwmeester. I mean, I think that secondary market may get moving now, and the big names may have to wait until just before the deadline.
Right. I've got a couple names we want to get into some rumors that I don't think anyone else is talking about out there today.
All right.
But we could be wrong, because it's a big wide world internet. But anyway, we'll try my best to come up with something different for you guys. This is at least what I've heard. And if it's been on Twitter, I apologize.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the Jordan Eberle, we've talked a lot about Eberle
before,
and the Islanders are playing so well right now. Do you know the Islanders have led, if you were to say, have been in the lead in games more than any other team in the NHL this year? Isn't that crazy? They've
I
actually
believe that, but there's 1 second of commentary I'd like to give you on that. Playing against Boston last night, I watched a lot of that game, and I did see the old Robin Leonard. He didn't play badly, don't get me wrong, but he did get frustrated with himself.
Yeah, their starter.
And I want to tell you, it's very hard on a goalie to play the way they're playing right now.
Yeah.
When you start to play teams like the Boston Bruins, and let's say you play the Washington Capitals, and you're expecting to grind it out with those teams and make it a 2-1 game and suppress shots.
One mistake and you're done.
Some of those games.
Yeah, one mistake is fatal. That's the problem. And we know from Leonard's his resume. I mean, Buffalo, at his best, he was as good as he's playing right now. But what he's eliminated in New York are those troughs where he's terrible, where he lets 3 or 4 bad goals in a night and he loses his composure. If he's eliminated that, God bless him, because I mean then he's one of the best goalies in the league. But with a team that's offensively challenged like the Islanders seem to be, you can't completely rely on Leonard to be a first star every night. You need to, I think, open up a little more of a gap, and I think that means getting another scorer or a couple players to help you. Otherwise, I think it's all on him, and it's a potential recipe for disaster. Yeah,
no, it is, and I mean, we've joked about this before, but I think the way first of all, the way they play, I think they are kind of even, the goalies. I honestly do, and I don't, everyone.
I know.
Communicate, and I think truth will be told when we get to the playoffs. Who's their goalie, who actually takes them. And I think that'll be interesting to see.
I'll bet you 2 cookies it's Leonard.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, and they're both been great. I'm not taking anything in, but I think if push comes to shove, if I know Barry Trotz, like, he tends to lean towards, a more consistent, like a guy who's not going to give up the bad goals, versus and that's really where they are right now. It feels like Grace is a little bit more consistent.
It's so hard to win playoff games this way, though. Like,
oh yeah.
It really will be.
Well, last night really pointed. If you were a betting man, last night pointed to the Bruins in so many ways, because the Bruins had been struggling. They've been winning games in bad ways. The Islanders have been playing out of their minds. They've been playing really well, and this game pointed towards the Bruins for sure. Like this.
And congrats to Patrice Bergeron on his 1,000th game. That's amazing.
And scored a couple goals. But to
I hate seeing the Patriots every 10 seconds on the screen for that game. It made me nauseous.
Whatever. But you mentioned Eberle, and I think
who scored in that game?
He did.
Right. I think right now it still seems to be the plan, or it still seems to be the idea that the Islanders are going to be both buyers and sellers. Yeah. That they're going to sell Eberle because he is still attractive as a potential scoring option. His salary is not ridiculous, and the Islanders could retain salary to get more back in a deal. and he's not going to re-sign there. I don't think they're interested in re-signing him there, but they might be interested in bringing somebody in to sort of replace him. So I think that Lou Lamoriello is going to sort of play that dual game. He's going to sell one, and then he's going to buy somebody else.
I've been trying really hard to find who, where Eberle could be heading, if that was the case. And I kind of agree with you at the same point. I mean, I think he could be part of at one point I thought, okay, he could be part of a Panarin trade, if that was to happen. But I don't think that Panarin's getting moved. And I think so. At the end of the day, talking to people out west, there's definite interest from Calgary on Jordan Eberle, and I think that seems to be the place where he could head up. I don't think they're going to move him in the East necessarily.
No, I agree. I've done some hard math. I want to let you know that for Matt Barzal to reach the 100-point plateau like Thomas predicted in the preseason, he only needs 53 points in his next 30 games, so it's totally achievable.
Sorry, Thomas.
How many 100-point guys we'll have this year? That's going to be fun.
I mean, one potential team, because they're always looking for scoring, could be Montreal, and that's just observational because I think Montreal definitely needs to add a scoring winger or a scoring forward. I know that Bergevin was in Toronto watching Anaheim and the Leafs on Monday. And that, I know that Montreal played them the next night, but I seriously doubt the GM 3 weeks before the deadline is out there pro scouting for the next game. So, I mean, I think it's probably to take a look at somebody like a Silfverberg if they trade him. Although there's a lot of talk. Pierre LeBrun said yesterday that it may not happen before the deadline, but Anaheim is looking basically, they know that they can't move Kessler, Getzlaf, Perry. Those contracts are too long, too onerous, but that Bob Murray is looking and could be looking to move guys like Adam Henrique, who they just signed, or Hampus Lindholm. And if he puts those guys out in the market during the summer, a lot of people will be interested.
Yeah, no, there's a ton of it. I mean, yeah, there's a lot there. I mean, I still think Silfverberg is going to get traded at Anaheim. I really do. I think that's to me that would be he's definitely has value. He's one of those players who, I mean, I think a lot of those guys in Anaheim just need new places to play. Like
he had a great run in the playoffs 2 years ago. Remember when they went to the conference finals and lost to Nashville? Silfverberg and Raquel were their two best forwards.
That's true.
Oh yeah, no, they were, and people pay attention to that. Playoffs. There are playoff players, the guys that just play well in the playoffs. You want to get those guys. Those guys are really important. And
I know that because I had them in my hockey pool.
Oh man. Yeah. So all right. So Eberle and Calgary. I didn't realize he was actually from there. Someone pointed it out in the chat room. He's from Alberta. I
didn't know that he was from there either.
According to Mark in our chat room, the word around his hometown is that he's going to stay with the Islanders, and it's possible. It is totally possible. I'm not saying it's not.
I mean, was that coming from like the local Safeway? Like where did this come from?
Long goes.
I mean, I think he wants to stay in New York. I think he wants. I don't think he would mind staying. I mean, I think it's a great team to be on right now. It's a young team, up and coming team. It's a fun place to play. I think that but I don't know if he's going to have the say on that necessarily, because
he may not have to say. I think you're right about that, and I don't know if he has as many options as he did a couple of years ago either.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have all those options, but there are teams that definitely like him. There, especially in Canada, he still has a lot of value.
I do think one of the more interesting stories that we haven't touched on in the last couple of days is apparently Stan Bowman approached Brent Seabrook about waiving his no move clause, and he said no. And there was a report that he was going to do the same for Duncan Keith. Good luck. It's not happening. I mean, honestly, those contracts, I mean, to a lesser extent, Keith, because the cap hit is not terrible. It's like in the mid fives. But those contracts, in terms of the length of those deals, they are boat anchors. Good luck trying to move.
I'm telling you, the only way that happens, and what I talked about before, and I wrote this rumor earlier in the year, is that if Quenneville ends up in Philly, one of those two guys could end up here. And I know the Flyers are doing well right now, but this is still that's still an interim coach. I still fully believe that they're gonna have serious discussions with Joel Quenneville in the offseason, no matter what happens.
But and other guys too, because Quenneville's going to probably talk to 4 or 5 teams.
Yeah, I mean, I can off the top of my head.
Wherever Quenneville goes, I mean, he's going to want one of those guys.
At Edmonton, Anaheim, although they say a lot of reports are saying that Dallas Eakins is the heir apparent there once they get rid of or once Carlisle leaves at the end of the year or gets fired. I brought up yesterday, I think Florida makes a ton of sense because, with Dale Talon there, with the fact that they got a boatload of cap space and they're probably going to be big players for Panarin and Bobrovsky. I mean, that, I'm sure the sunny confines of Florida would be something that would attract Quenneville. But yeah, I mean, he's going to be able to pick where he wants to go.
I will tell you this: if you think the wait for Bryce Harper is long, the wait for Quenneville will be longer for Flyers fans. Trust me.
Yeah, no, that's true. I don't think there's any question about that. It's gonna play out in a lot of different ways. The other thing I keep hearing a lot about is a trade involving the Oilers and Blues, which would send Puljujarvi to St. Louis for Parayko. And
well, it's going to take more than Puljujarvi.
It'll take more.
I'm just saying these are the main pieces.
Yeah.
But
no, I think that's right. I expect Puljujarvi to go. I have actually said yesterday, Ek, I said they might as well just trade. This is exactly what I said: Puljujarvi and Yamamoto for Parayko. They might as well just do it. And I'm not saying that's a good trade, but I'm saying that's the kind of trade I expect from them.
But I would tell you, I was flipping back and forth between a number of things last night, and one of them was the movie Tombstone, and the other one was the Edmonton Chicago game. And if you look at my Twitter feed, you'll know how those two came together, because when the Oilers gave up 3 goals in less than 2 minutes in the third period, the "oh my God" gif from Tombstone was the perfect illustration of my lack of shock at that piss poor defense giving up a lead. They are terrible.
And they fanned through his jersey on the ice.
His
jersey. He threw a jersey on the ice.
Yeah.
And 6 Colton Paraykos won't help that defense right now.
No, it won't. I mean, the only thing you can do, to really change the character of that team right now is just almost just like start another season. It seems like right now they just need to get away from this year. They have to figure out they need to add some players for sure. But
I think what they need to do, because I mean, if they make a deal like Russ is suggesting, I mean, you're giving up 2 first-round picks in the last 4 drafts and don't get me wrong, I think Parayko's a good defenseman,
no question.
Yeah, right-hand shot, he's big, so you're getting something back for it, but don't you think that you should allow the guy who is going to be the general manager of that team, the guy that they haven't hired yet, to make a decision on the future assets? You're going to have that guy come in with only McDavid and maybe one other guy who was drafted in the first round. Let that guy make the decisions. Don't have the cohort of Keith Gretzky and every ex-Oiler known to man making the decisions.
Well, you got to remember, of course, when you're talking about Edmonton, that's what they've done. They've always had to make.
I know, and look at how well it's worked.
I don't think it's going to change. I think that they're looking for somebody who can bring that together more than some. They're not looking for like a Hextall type character who's going to go into his own office and run the whole team, and no one's going to know what's going on.
I do feel like this is the appropriate time to tell Ek they have a 9% chance of making the playoffs.
I love these chances. You know that. What are they? They are 3 points out of the playoffs with a game at hand, and they
with 5 teams in between them. Anna, here.
Listen, I'm the first to say how difficult this is. I mean, look at to know how difficult it is to make the playoffs when you are far behind. You just have to look at the Philadelphia Flyers, okay, who have won 8 games in a row now,
and they're 7 points out.
They're 7 points out, and on top of that, the teams above them, and I was working. I mean, if I was a Flyers beat writer, I would write this in a second. I don't want to hit too many Flyers things. The teams above them have all played pretty mediocre, with the exception of a few. I mean, really, it's incredible. Look at Pittsburgh.
Except for Carolina. Carolina did
Pittsburgh's 4 in last 10. Pittsburgh 4-6. Boston 4-3-3. Columbus 5-5. Buffalo 4-6. Carolina, you're right, 6-3-1. The Rangers 5-4. Florida 4-5. Detroit 5-5. You're looking at literally. I mean, so they have played in the last 10, and the Flyers are 9-1. So the Flyers have gained 4 or 5 points in that period of time.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And think about it. If Columbus goes on a 5-game winning streak, it almost doesn't matter what Philly does.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it is hard, but at the same time, there is still half of a season left practically. I mean, it's like, and it's hard to put this in perspective. It's like you really have. It's less now, but it's still. all right, say we still have 40% of the season left at least.
Okay.
And, you have to realize that, only what you're looking at is half of a season, and you have half of a season to come essentially.
Well,
and it's hard to really say, what's going to happen here. I think those percentage things are absolutely ridiculous. I love the simulation stuff. I have my own one, so I'm not going to sit there and mock it. I do my own thing, which is very different than the way they do it. I like the way they do it. I've been looking through it. Like I told you guys, I was looking over the way they do it.
Yeah,
they run very similar simulations. I don't think that they take some of the things that are in my simulation that they don't take into account, and I don't even want to say them because I think they're cool, like, stuff that I do that other people don't do. So when you'll see mine, but I am working on a story about, what I do every year, which is the projected standings. And last year I did my projected standings versus the club sports stats or whatever it was.
Yeah.
We both did at the day after the trade deadline, and mine was way more accurate and had some teams making, the playoffs that, that they didn't have making the playoffs. And just, you can't. Computers can run simulations, but there's certain things about hockey that are very specific,
But this is the point that I think is sort of overriding. The Anaheim Ducks have lost 17 of 19 games, and they have the worst goal differential in the NHL at -47.
Yeah,
and they are 3 points out of a playoff spot.
Right. No, it's impossible to go either way. And the frustrating thing about the NHL is that it feels as if the beginning of the season is so much more important than the second part of the season because it's impossible to move anyway. But it really isn't that. It really it is possible. You just can't look at it like I mean, how many games in a row do the Flyers have to win to get back into the playoffs? They've won 8 games in a row.
I said
in a row, are they back in the playoffs?
I said before they went on this streak, they would have to have an Andrew Hammond like ridiculous 24-0-2 type of streak to get back into it. That's why I think this whole thing, I mean, it may make Philadelphia Flyers fans feel good that Carter Hart is playing well, but honestly, all you're doing right now, you're not going to make the playoffs, and you're costing yourself percentage chances to draft Jack Hughes. Enjoy your winning streak. It's not going to help you a good goddamn bit.
Everybody should enjoy it, and somebody.
I think that we've always disagreed on that.
Chris pointed out. Chris pointed out it was 16 points 9 days ago, and in 9 more days, it could be back to 16 points. Like it's just
exactly.
It's really that simple.
Well, everything has gone right to get to 3 points, or to get to wherever they are now, 4 points. But they still have a couple games. There are a couple games. They played a couple more games. They're really not.
Do you think about this? For the next 7 games, if Carter Hart's facing 41 shots a game, do you think he's going to continue to win every game? No,
he's not going to win every game. And then he's. I mean, I think the reality is right now they are 7 points back, right?
3 teams ahead of them won last night. And they stunk deeper, and they didn't do anything.
Right, and those 3 teams, the 3 of those teams, or 2 of those teams have played 1 less game than them. So that's the issue. So
that's another issue too. Yeah,
Columbus. They're 7 points behind Columbus. They're 7 points behind Columbus.
So 9 points. So they went from 16 points to basically 9 points or 7, or let's say 8 points back. They've halved it by going 8-1. Right. By going 9-1 in the last 10, they've halved a 16-point lead. So to get the next step, you've got to go 9-1 again and hope the teams ahead of you play 500 hockey again, which is like that's
hard to sustain. It really hard to sustain.
And let me ask you what I asked Russ yesterday. With this streak, if they stay say at this distance in 3 weeks from now, does that make them pull back from trading Wayne Simmonds?
Nope.
I think it may have already made them pull back to trading Wayne Simmonds. I'll tell you that right now. I think
their management is delusional.
No, I think they pulled back initially to see if they could negotiate a deal. I think they tried and it failed. Okay. That's what I think happened. I don't know.
Another way of looking at the Wayne Simmonds thing. Okay, the Wayne Simmonds thing is inextricably, that's the right word to use, I think, tied to James Van Riemsdyk. Wayne Simmonds and JVR are tied at the hip, in my opinion, because they bring in JVR, who does the same thing that Wayne Simmonds does.
Sure.
Scores the same kind of goals, plays the same spots on the power plays, right? And JVR has a horrible beginning to the season,
right?
And Wayne has an okay beginning of the season, but then struggles as well because they keep burying him on and they screwed with Wayne Simmonds all year. Let's just say he was all over the map.
Nobody stopped Wayne Simmonds from not having assists, and nobody stopped Wayne Simmonds from actually slowing down in open ice, which are factors.
Right? No question. And now I think and over this streak, you're seeing that Van Riemsdyk has been amazing. Like he's absolutely, he's taken off. He's scoring goals. Like he's scoring a goal every other game. He's killing it. Wayne Simmonds now is starting to play well too. And I think that it took this long to kind of have a team where you could actually figure out a way to have a team with both of those guys on it. It really was. It took. And in doing that, it's affected other players in a negative way. I mean, it was just, in my opinion, JVR was the wrong player to bring into this team if you were planning on keeping Wayne Simmonds, which means that they weren't planning on keeping Wayne.
I don't disagree, but this sounds like a lot like the guys from Skull Island who always think they're finding the answer and then never do, or they're finding Bigfoot who never found the answer. Inexplicably, their whole series was finally canceled after 9 years, and they never found Bigfoot. All right.
I know, and it's really sad. I watched every one of them.
If you want to find Bigfoot, he's on the $6 million man, and he's Andre the Giant.
My favorite finding Bigfoot moment was when they got into the forest. It was amazing. They figured they got the most expensive equipment they've ever had to use it. They put it on top of the car. They put this little rotating satellite thing that was silent, with like water cooled silence on top of the van. It was rotating around, and they're looking through like the heat seeking thing, and they see a figure walking across the forest. And they go to commercial. It's like, oh my gosh, what is it? They come back and they're like, oh, that was our cameraman setting up another camera. It was amazing. It was like absolutely. It was the best Bigfoot. Yeah, Bigfoot wants to be left alone. I'm agreeing with everybody out there. My son always says it should be called Finding Trees, which is really funny.
Your son's right, because actually, anytime they found like hair or a DNA sample, they never reported back on it. They just let it go.
We're sending this off to a lab to find out what happened.
Right.
I never heard that it was a badger. That they found the hair of a badger or something like that, right?
Right.
All right. Okay, all right. Back to hockey. The other player whose name came up yesterday.
Yeah.
And then I do want to mention something interesting about the standings. Then we'll do some questions real fast. So we're gonna move rapidly here. The other player I heard mentioned yesterday was William Nylander. Okay, who is has had a really horrible start to this year. I mean,
although he did have a good game against,
he's just getting going when you played 25 games, and scored 2 goals. He has really, and I mean, he still makes nice plays and everything. That this was all very predictable. There is a team out there that is very interested in him still, and that is the Minnesota Wild. And the question is, I think there's gonna be a moment of truth at some point along the line here with William Nylander, and it will come down to what Toronto wants to do. If they want to just keep him going and see if he'll, or if they're going to see if the next 3 weeks will make him into the player he was before, or not. I mean, I think
he did have one of his better games since coming back against Anaheim. Although a lot of people say that doesn't count because it's Anaheim, but he did play well.
I mean, it counts. It's still an NHL game.
It counts. He made some nice plays. Get assist and a goal, and
sorry, Mike.
He scored a goal too. So, I mean, it was his second goal in 20 some odd games. So, but I mean, I get the feeling, that, I mean, the one thing that's an impediment against them moving him before the deadline, if that's what you're indicating, is the fact that the first year of that 6-year deal was front loaded at over 10 mil. And you can't retain salary, or the Leafs can't retain salary on that because they want to keep the cap space that they have right now to pay the performance bonuses on Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews on this year's cap. So I continue to think that, and we had the Austin Matthews signing news yesterday. Mitch Marner, I think, will likely sign an extension in the offseason before July. I don't think there's going to be any offer sheet. But on July 1st, when the Leafs pay that $8.3 million signing bonus, and he's got a base salary of $700,000 and his cap hits under $7 million, with options out there with RFAs that are going to be making $9 to $10 million a year, like Panarin or Stone or Kyle Connor or any of these guys, Nylander's deal is going to look reasonable, and they're going to be able to get a good return for him. So I think if he is traded, it's going to be then. I doubt it's going to be now.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
I wanted to say this. I watched Minnesota Buffalo, right?
Yeah,
that was a good game. Minnesota's playing really good hockey even without Matt Dumba. And they're staying alive in it, even without Matt Dumba. And I say that because a lot of teams, you take away their number one defenseman. If you took away Morgan Riley, I'm not sure what the Leafs would look like. I mean, that would be ugly.
It would be pretty ugly. And there was something and I told Russ about this morning, a very strange occurrence in that game. I don't think I've ever seen somebody get a concussion during a shootout. And Linus Ullmark, and I haven't heard any report this morning, but in the shootout, they were Buffalo had scored. Zach Parise was the shooter. He tried to deke Ullmark out. He made the stop, and as he went by, he accidentally hit Ullmark's helmet, his mask, and he went down. And after he acknowledged Parise, that wasn't on purpose, he didn't celebrate with his teammates the victory. He skated right to the bench and went right down the tunnel. So I mean, that was strange. And the thing is, Carter Hutton's stats since that 10-game winning streak early in the year, he's well under 500. Ullmark is a game over. So
yeah.
That, and Hutton was the goalie during that 10 for most of those 10 games. So I mean that the key, Buffalo's still in the race. They could add some players at the deadline, but it's the goaltending. They need
goaltending, and Bogosian's hurting them. Like people are starting to talk about that.
Right.
Yeah.
He's not helping them. It could be a bridge too far for them. They're going to be in the race, but I could see them falling out. But that game with Minnesota was good for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
Both teams hung with each other really well. Both teams were losing leads and came back. The goaltending was not bad. It wasn't really the goaltending that lost it in that game. There was a lot of skill on display. But Eck, I saw the same thing out of Minnesota. A lot of great passing, but too much passing.
Yeah.
No finishing.
Yeah, they really are. They're very much in as an offense. They're kind of like a full offensive version of Zach Parise, if you can imagine. Like that's really what they feel like. They are. Yeah. They have like skill. They're tough. They make good plays. They're not great finishing, but they'll score goals. But like Parise, they're inconsistent. Like Parise really kind of sums up that team in a lot of ways. And I love Zach Parise, but
I don't know what they can do to address that scoring need. And if you look at their situation after this year, I mean, Eric Stahl's a UFA, and they're so up against the cap that I don't know whether they'll be able to sign him. I mean. I don't know. I mean, they're sort of a team in flux. I don't know whether Russ. I know predicted them to go far in the playoffs. I think they'll make the play. I think they'll make the playoffs, but I don't know how far they can go.
Let's get to some questions. We got a lot of questions in the chat room. You guys are great. If you want to get to the chat room, what you do is you guys go to the YouTube version of this. So if you're watching it on my blog, just click on it, go to YouTube, then go back to my blog because we like the traffic, and then, but do the pop-out chat, and you can put the chat on your side, and then you can be a part of the show, which is always a lot of fun. We have a lot of great guys in there. A lot of people know their stuff about hockey. They always keep us on our toes.
And we'll probably use that chat on our trade deadline show on deadline day.
For sure. And a lot of love for Russ today in the chat room as well. So make sure
they all hate me. I know.
Well, that's a given. All right.
No, Mike. One guy said you were awesome too. That's not true.
I appreciate it. Thank you. You have great taste.
Bryce, who's a big fan of Russ's, says, Russ, what do you think of Jordan Greenway emerging power forward, all size, no grit? Thoughts?
No, I mean, I think there is some grit there. There always has been, but I think when guys come in who have size in the NHL, and even though he played in the Olympics and everything else, it still takes them a while to find their way, to find the right line mates. He's still a fairly young guy. I mean, what is he, 22?
Yeah, he feels like he's younger. I don't know why.
He does. I got to look it up, but I think there's still something there. And, I don't know if it'll all click in this year, but if it does, that could really help them. But
he played on the World Junior team in 2017.
He's 21.
Yeah. So
it has to click in soon for him.
He'll be 22 in a week. February 16th.
He feels younger than that, doesn't he? It's like crazy. I mean, I don't know, something about his game. He plays younger than that. And part of the reason he was so good in the Olympics, he was one of the older guys on that team at the time. So
it's true.
You think about it. All right. So Mike Joel asks, do you think the Pens will get any of the Ottawa forwards, meaning Stone, Dzingel, or Duchesne? I know the Penguins are very interested in Dzingel. And I've heard a little bit about Duchesne as well, but Duchesne, and the Penguins has always been an intriguing thing to me. Like that could really put the Penguins in a good spot. I know the Predators are very high on Matt Duchesne, and that's something that I would keep an eye out for. Now that they don't have Simmonds, now they don't get Simmonds, that could be the next move for the Preds. The Penguins, I love them because they're always trying to do stuff like this, which is it's so nice to have a team in the NHL that actually wants to make trades and do stuff. and the Penguins lead the way that way, and it's awesome, and because they're so good as well.
Dzingel is that part of that secondary market. I mean, I think Zuccarello also is a player of that level. And I did hear that they were looking for, you ask for this. I don't expect to get this, but they were asking for a first-round pick for Dzingel. I know he's having a good year, but you're not getting a first-round pick for Ryan Dzingel.
Yeah, you're not. They have to be more creative than that. You have to come up with something else that'll make that work. But the best thing is the Penguins are incredibly good at creative deals. So that's where I wouldn't count them out of figuring out a way to get Dzingel without a first-round draft pick.
Right.
All right, next question is Julian says, we talked about this before in the chat, but would it be possible to bring in other NHL teams columnists on the show to hear their opinions? Yes, it is possible. We will definitely talk about that more after the trade deadline. The problem is before the trade deadline, it's just things are so crazy around here that it's tough to figure out stuff like that. But I would definitely want to get some more of our columnists on here as well.
Yep.
And we've got some really great writers right now in Hockey Buzz. We've got some of the best we've ever had. So and along with others, besides Kevin Allen, that we have on quite often, as you guys know. Andrew Perry, do you think the Ducks might shop Getzlaf at the deadline if they keep losing? I think that they would move Getzlaf if they could, but I think that the price on him is just
he's making over $8 million. I think it's another 3 years.
The 3-year part of it is the issue. They'd have to keep half the salary, and then you could maybe start talking about it.
I mean, let's be real. They have to still market this team. I mean, Anaheim is not a guaranteed surefire sellout. They got to keep some of these guys, whether they're long in the tooth or not.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And I think that,
and I'm not saying Getzlaf is long in the tooth yet. I know he has rebounded from a couple of years ago when it was looking like he was on the downside. He's still really good. He's just not a superstar.
It's 2 more years at 8.25. This is, I mean, their bigger problem is Kessler for 3 more years at almost 7, and Corey Perry, who was out for the entire year. I think he's the same length of contract as Getzlaf. So I mean, that's those are just killers. I mean, they really are.
Says my question would be thoughts on what Dreger reported regarding Michael Furlan being retained potentially by the Canes as their quote unquote own rental, and how do you guys feel about it? I think. Well, there's a method to this, and certain writers and certain reporters do this really well. And one of the things Dreger does really well, and I mean, this is not a knock on Dreger. I like Dreger. We get along perfectly fine. Is that he is very good at putting stuff like this out. And when it comes out like this, because Dreger has so many good connections, I can't help but feel that this is Carolina saying, you're not offering us enough for Michael Furlan.
That's funny you said that, Ak, because I believe it was Pierre LeBrun a couple days ago in The Athletic, who's his compatriot at TSN, said that the offers for Furlan, they were not getting first-round pick offers for him, that they weren't getting offers they were blown away from, and not that they were going to pull him off the market, but they were basically saying, okay, we're not satisfied with these offers, we want more. And that if they're saying we're going to keep him as an own rental, that's just a throw. Oh, well, okay, maybe we'll give you a little more to get this done.
I think it's just posturing. If they keep him as an own rental, the fact that they're stopping him from going to free agency, they're overpaying for this guy, because I just think he's arcing down.
It's quite a coup. I mean, for them, if they make the playoffs, I mean, they are not that far out of it. If they
they're not that far out of it.
They can pull the playoffs up, no matter what happens in the playoffs. It would be a huge, huge victory for and Condon, and all the guys there really want that to happen.
Yeah, no question. But again, Furlan shouldn't be part of their future. I think he's like dipping as far as being just good in this league.
I don't think he is part of their future. If it's an own rental, I don't think they're going to sign him for what he's looking for. I think they're saying we're going to keep him for our playoff run and then let him go. And a team like Carolina, who I think needs assets still to
I don't think they can afford to do that either. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Julian Phillips, Eck, I want your opinion. Yesterday, Mike and Russ said Ottawa would trade everyone. Well, I'll start off by saying that Mike and Russ are always wrong. But I know Melnick won't spend over $8 million for Duchesne or Stone. Or what are you
hearing said about? That if they wouldn't sign with them,
right?
That they should trade everyone. Is that what you guys said yesterday?
Yeah,
go ahead, Russ.
I was just going to say, we were saying what happened was we said there's a great possibility now that none of these guys sign with these offers: Duchesne, Stone, and eventually CC. And if that's the case, then we think they should trade them all.
Yeah,
right.
I think what they're doing now is they're trying. They feel like the easiest person for them to sign is Duchesne, and they're going for that, and they're pushing hard to sign Duchesne. And if they sign Duchesne, then I think they feel like he has some influence over getting Stone to stay. And I think that their goal is to keep both Duchesne and Stone, and they definitely aren't sellers completely, because they don't want to finish with this horrible record, and end up giving the great player to Colorado. So that there's going to be some of that, although I don't think they're focused on that entirely, and they shouldn't be, because even if they finish with the worst record, it's only like a 25% chance that they get the worst pick, right? So they still have to, I think that there is enough talent there, and they feel like if Stone and Duchesne can be the base for that, Dzingel will go. I think Dzingel's going to go because he's having a great year in his contract year, and he can always bring Dzingel back. But I think that he's a great rental.
And it's hard to pronounce in French. Like the French translation for that's not good.
Yeah.
And the indication is that Cece's going to go because Cece is coming off 2 years on a bridge deal. He's due a raise. Even the qualifying offer would be over $3 million, and I don't think they want to pay him or can afford to pay him. But
heck, you do see a scenario, right, where it's possible that none of these guys sign because Duchesne maybe waffles and Stone doesn't take the deal, and then Cece's probably not taking any deal.
Oh, I think they're putting a lot on Duchesne staying. I think they are. I agree with you. If Duchesne says no, then everything could fall completely apart.
But the scenario for Ottawa, though, they have to find out pretty quickly. They can't say, "Oh, we'll push this to February 23rd," and
they flat out told people, and I think Matt Duchesne might have even said it openly, right? That he basically that they put it on him to decide within a week or so. I think that Duchesne news will come out quickly. It'll be the kind of thing like he's signed or been traded. You won't be the kind of thing where he's decided not to sign. You're not going to hear that.
I still feel like he is the guy that will sign. I've always felt that way, but I felt like he would have done it quicker. So now I'm a little worried about it.
But everybody
does. I think he and his agent know how much power they have here. I mean,
but a lot of people have been saying the exact opposite. It's Stone that's going to sign him.
I think Duchesne's. I think what we've seen by their actions is that Duchesne is the easier one to sign, and that they realize that.
Stone has turned into an upper echelon player in the league. Yeah. I don't think Ottawa can sign that. That's what I
doesn't want to stay someplace where Duchesne isn't. I think that's the big thing. Like he wants to have some skill with him there. So, all right. Really quickly, do you see Detroit trading anyone? Mike asks. I do, but I don't. Howard and Nyquist. It does sound like they're going to hold on to Howard. I don't think they're going to hold on to Nyquist at the end of the day.
No, I think he'll get traded. I agree.
Robert Coyne, Eck with Nashville set. Who might Simmonds get dealt to? Is Ghost or Voracek possible to be moved now or in the summer? It's always possible. Voracek, they really can't move him because of his contract.
I think in the summer they'll try again, though.
They'll try. They tried before.
Pierre LeBrun,
of all the players that could be traded, Gossier definitely has a ton of value out there.
Pierre LeBrun.
They won't do that until they know what's going on with Provorov. So
Pierre LeBrun seems to think that Simmonds in Tampa Bay is a good fit.
I've heard that too. Tampa's going to do something. Last couple here. Jeremy, have you guys heard any rumors about Jaden Schwartz? No, and he's had a very frustrating season in St. Louis for sure. He's such a skilled player that
I have a lot of players. Tarasenko too.
I mean, if I could get Jaden Schwartz on my team, I would in a heartbeat.
Of course, yeah, everybody would.
Cameron Young. What are the chances of Ottawa trading Craig Anderson? Not good, because they need to win. And there's not really unless there's other players out there right now that are available, like Cam Talbot. Even though Craig, is one of those guys who could be really solid for you and be a good pickup.
I don't think Cam Talbot has been doing wonders for his trade value the way him and the Oilers have played lately.
No. And finally, okay, running out of time here. Sorry, so many good questions. Thomas, Eck, do you see Lou holding on to Eberle for a playoff run and losing him for nothing, or trading him before the deadline?
Trade.
I think they're going to trade him, but I don't know that. And Lou will definitely not trade him. Lou will definitely hold on to him for a playoff run if he doesn't get what he wants.
There's a good playoff run.
If he doesn't get what he wants. I mean, the Islanders are trying to add, though. They are trying to add it. And Lou's very sneaky at adding stuff, so look out. He could do something.
But Eck, I did say this to Mike real quick. Do you think Lou will do some sort of deal like Lou did for Babcock, even if he's not 100% certain of their playoff odds, simply because it's Trotz and you got to keep him happy.
It's interesting. It's a good one. I don't know. I mean, who would that be? I wonder.
I mean, it could be a minor trade, but I think he'll add somebody just based on that.
Yeah, like the Plekanec type trade.
Yes.
Yeah. It's possible.
Yeah, that was a real popular one.
Yeah, I know. It's possible because, although I think Babcock and Trotz are such different kind of characters. Babcock is, I think, a lot more demanding about that kind of stuff, about bringing in his people than Trotz is.
And even after the Jake Muzzin deal, Babcock has continued to say we need more heavy players. He's going to continue to say that until the deadline, and then once the deadline is passed, he knows he can't impose his will on Kyle Dubas to do something. But maybe there'll be some of that with Trotz and Lamoriello.
I mean, I know for a fact in Nashville, Trotz and Boyle worked very closely together, but Trotz would always, at the end of the day, say, "I'm the coach, whoever they give me," type that coach. And there's some coaches will say that, just say it. Kind of believed it with Trotz, like he believes he can make anything work. That's the good thing that's what's really good about Barry Trotz in general. He
does, but it's a pretty closed team right now in the sense that I think he gets the feeling like he has this group playing exactly what he wants, and I think you could only do minor tinkering to that.
Yeah, like bring in a Panarin or something like that. While it looks great, and it also could really mess you up too.
It could.
And by the way, Russ, did you happen to see the letter from the Nassau County executive to Gary Bettman pleading with him to give the Nassau County Coliseum the playoff games for a potential Stanley Cup run for the Islanders?
I'm sure the Barclays people laughed at that. Like, this is just, again, that is like the biggest joke, to send a letter when all of this could have been done so many years ago, and that could have been the main place. That just makes me laugh.
I mean, the other thing about the Islanders, and I'm a big fan of the Islanders and all that stuff, but if they remain in first place, it really makes it interesting as far as like second, third, and fourth in that division. Yeah, because
you think Washington and Pittsburgh would prefer to be in second, third, and fourth? I think they would.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're Washington or Pittsburgh, you would rather fall to fourth, and and I think because the Islanders in the playoffs, that's one of those things who knows how they're going to do.
No, but if you put the Caps in fourth, they'll make it to the conference final.
Hey, Tampa Bay Lightning, you've won the President's Trophy, and for your troubles, your first round match is the Stanley Cup champion Washington Capitals.
Right, that could be brutal.
It could really happen, and that's gonna be interesting to see. I mean, I'm working on an article for the Islanders because I write about the Islanders on our website. I'm working on the article about comparing this year's Islanders to last year's Vegas Knights, and there's some really striking similarities.
Sure.
Anyway, we have to go, but remember, we thank you so much for joining us, watching us, like us, comment on our stuff in YouTube. And share us around so that people know what we're all about. We're going to be here every day, every Monday through Friday. So we'll talk to you soon. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. Have a good night. Enjoy the games.